Did we just get our first look at the PS6? It looks like we're finally getting backwards compatibility on the PS5. Is PlayStation Now getting canceled? And how many games is Supermassive working on right now? Are they making their big return to PlayStation? Let's find out in today's edition of PlayStation News. Make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. One of the studios that Sony used to work with a lot that they ended up letting go, which I always thought was weird, was Supermassive Games. Their biggest game that you've definitely heard of is the PS4 exclusive Until Dawn. Now, I had been looking forward to that game for a very long time by the time it came out, because it was initially announced for PS3 like way back as a PlayStation Move game, and then it disappeared for a while and then popped up on the PS4 and ended up being really good. They had awesome actors from horror movies like Hayden Panettiere. They also had Agent Grant Ward's actor from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which at the time it was a show I was kind of into. I'll admit it here on the channel. And weirdly enough, they got in on the ground floor with Rami Malek, who ended up being one of my favorite actors thanks to the show Mr. Robot, and then also obviously all the other stuff he's been in. Like, he was just the bad guy in a James Bond movie. So they were early on getting some really good actors. And another reason I really like that game is because it nailed the feel of the movies that I grew up watching around that time. Like, I was sneaking into the movie theater around the 2010s to see a lot of horror remakes that were like, some were good, some were bad. We had stuff like Freddy vs. Jason, the Friday the 13th remake, the terrible Nightmare on Elm Street remake, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and the sequel, The Beginning, which was actually a prequel. All of those were decent to varying degrees of success, except for A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is one of the worst movies ever made. That one sucks. CGI Freddy haunts me still. But thankfully, coming off the heels of the announcement of the PSVR 2, it looks like Sony wised up and learned their lesson that letting these guys go was a bad move, because apparently, according to a big industry leaker, they have a lot of games in development exclusively for the PlayStation 5 with Supermassive Games. Now, hopefully all of those games aren't VR games, because as much as I like VR, I think their games are better when you're just playing a horror movie, and the real reason I want them to be PlayStation exclusive comes down to money, right? Like, Namco Bandai isn't shelling out the same amount of money as Sony would for a first-party exclusive, and the PS5's graphics are so good that I feel like they can finally achieve what they set out to do all the way back on the PS3 when they started working on Until Dawn. Honestly, this is a studio that I think Sony should just buy and take off the market, because it really feels like a studio where they'll make Until Dawn 2, it won't sell all that well, and then Xbox will turn around and buy them, and then their games will be exclusive to Xbox, but I want them on PS5. I want trophies, I want the support of 3D audio, I want the PS5 experience that I had in the PS4 generation with Until Dawn, and I don't think that's too much to ask for. So if you look at the whole slate of Sony's online offerings at this point, PS Now and PS Plus are getting so similar that they really need to figure out a way to merge these two services together. Like, at this point, you're getting so many new games on PlayStation Now for PS4 that it almost feels like a supplementary service to PlayStation Plus, because on PS Plus, you get a few PS5 games every month and a couple PS4 games, and then on PS Now, you're getting a whole group of PS4 games. It's like, what's really the difference here at this point, other than being able to stream PS3 games to your PS5? But it doesn't look very good. People have been kind of waiting to see what Sony's going to do next, because they've been saying that they're working on some sort of system to compete with Game Pass, and it looks like they're really gearing up, because over in the UK, they've started pulling the gift cards for PlayStation Now off of shelves. Now, Sony's done similar stuff like this in the past with PlayStation Store gift cards and PlayStation Digital Codes and PlayStation Plus digital gift cards on Amazon. They pulled a lot of that stuff off just so you'd be only buying it through PlayStation, or if you go to the grocery store or something like that, you're getting the official PlayStation branded cards, so eventually the money gets back to them in that system. This just feels a little bit different though, because in the background we've heard that Sony is working on a thing called Project Spartacus, which looks like it's going to finally give us backwards compatibility. We'll talk about why that's definitely happening more in a minute, but obviously bringing full backwards compatibility natively to the PlayStation 5 kind of eliminates the need for PlayStation Now for a bunch of users that are streaming PS3 games to their PlayStation 5, because why would you stream them in PS3 quality if you could just play them on your console with no latency, and definitely including some upgrades like 1080p or a solid 30 or 60 frames per second? You'd be crazy not to do it that way. Now, my first guess would be that they're going to upgrade the service of PlayStation Now, which would of course make it more expensive, so that if you pay for a higher tier, you get the ability to download these games to your PS5. But that really is not going to be the best solution in my opinion, because I bought a ton of digital games on my PlayStation 3. Like, that was one of the first consoles where about halfway through that generation, Sony decided not only is every game going to come out digitally on day one on the PlayStation Store, but you would also get a 10% discount for buying directly from Sony. And I did that a lot with a ton of games, because a lot of the games that Sony was making at the time, like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, the collection of Jak and Daxter games, the Ratchet & Clank collection, the God of War collection, a lot of these games, if you bought them on the PS4 or PS3 store, you would get a free copy that goes along with it to go on your Vita. So buying them digitally was just the easiest way to do it, and I did that a lot. So if Sony invents this way to include backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5 with this PS Now update, they're gonna have to figure out a way for me to also go back and download those games I already purchased. Like, even on the Xbox side of things, if you have Game Pass, there are a bunch of Xbox and Xbox 360 games on Game Pass already, and that's great. But if you own the games, like Mass Effect 1 or whatever, I don't know if that's supported. If it is supported, you can put that disc right in your Xbox Series X or Xbox One, and it'll download the Xbox 360 digital version of the game that runs on your Xbox and Xbox Series X. It's just like so much better that way. I just can't think of a way for Sony to justify coming out and saying, well, we figured out backwards compatibility finally, like you guys have been asking, but even though you already bought a ton of these games already for full price digitally, we're not giving you a way to add them to your account and re-download them to your PS5. That is so out there and just anti-consumer and not great as a whole that I think it would really rub people the wrong way. Like, the functionality is going to be there. Make it work so that the games I have on my PlayStation account that I've been using since the PS3 came out, hell, since the PSP came out and got online services, make it work so that I can play those games on the PlayStation 5. And for those of you out there who are doubting that this backwards compatibility is actually finally going to happen, Mark Cerny, the man himself who has figured out the construction of the PS5 on the software side, who has been saying he's been working on this backwards compatibility solution for a long time now, just filed 2 patents for backwards compatibility. The first patent is for straight up backwards compatibility, and the second one is for cloud saves, which that second one, the cloud save one, that is what I want to see, because going all the way back to the PlayStation 3, you were able to upload your saves to the cloud if you were paying for PlayStation Plus. So if they give me backwards compatibility for stuff like Resistance 2, Resistance 3, the original Uncharted, I know that there's a collection already, but I have a save for the original game, which I would love to go back and use. My save for Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, my Metal Gear Solid 2 HD save, my Metal Gear Solid 3 HD save, my Metal Gear Solid 4 save. There is so many games that I have saves for, just ready to be downloaded once these games are available, if they're available on the PlayStation 5. So to know that they have this patented to go along with the backwards compatibility, that is just like chef's kiss, man. Music to my ears. Thank you, Sony, for thinking ahead on this one. With stuff like the rumored Last of Us remake, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, this rumored Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, the fact that the new BioShock might be exclusive to the PlayStation 5, Sony was already set up to have an incredible 2022. But if they can come out around E3 or this rumored February event where they're going to announce a ton of new games and say, oh, also, we're giving you the ability to not only play PS1 games, not only play PSP games, not only play PS2 games, but also PS3 games on your PS5 and all of the ones you already bought digitally, because I also bought a lot of those other consoles games digitally, will work on your PS5, that will be insane. I know Xbox is already doing it, but even going back to the Xbox 360 generation, the best exclusives were on PlayStation. Like, there is no way currently without streaming to play Infamous 1 and Infamous 2 and Infamous Festival of Blood on the PlayStation 5. And that's just criminal, right? I don't want to stream that game. I want to download it and enjoy it in its 720-ish p goodness. I can't believe I just said that. I hope if they get the Infamous first 2.5 games working, I hope they can figure out how to upscale them to 1080p and maybe, just maybe, get us 60 frames per second. Another game I'd love to go back and play is Fallout New Vegas. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are so many great PS3 games that are just stuck, not on the PlayStation 5 unless they have ports, which is super annoying. So yeah, being able to go back and play those again would be great. And then on the PSP side, Resistance Retribution with twin thumbstick shooting would be great, because that's an awesome third-person shooter that I don't think enough people have played. Killzone Liberation was a top-down Killzone game on PSP. I was like a dominant leader on the leaderboards in that game. I would love to give that another try on my 4K OLED TV. I just can like imagine how bad it's gonna look, but it's gonna feel so nostalgic to be able to play this stuff again. I'm so excited. Like I mentioned the last time we talked about patents, Sony is actually pretty quick with once they patent something, getting it turned around quickly and out into the wild, because, you know, when they patent it, that lets people know that it's actually a real thing, and then their competitors can get on board and kind of counter them. So if they get this stuff out quicker, that gives them less of a chance to be countered by their competitor. And I know that Xbox already has better backwards compatibility, but again, it's like, you know, Xbox has Game Pass, right? They have so many games on Game Pass, and a lot of them are good, but there's not a lot that really rival the quality you get on PlayStation's side of the fence. And that's going to be the exact same scenario with backwards compatibility. It's going to be a quality over quantity fight once again. And then the last news story I have for you today is a really cool concept for a PS6 that I found online. Because, you know, when there's not a lot of PlayStation news, the best thing to do is to go to ArtStation and find a PS6 concept and write it up. But this one's really cool. It harkens back to the revision PS1. So you had the PlayStation 1, right? That was like fat and gray. And then you had the small PS1 that was like oval shaped, and it was really cool. You could get the screen for it. I never had that screen, but I really wanted it. This one definitely calls back to that. But it's got the stacked look of the PS4 Slim and PS4 Pro. And then on top, you've got this disc drive that's just like the old PS1. The disc drive cover is opaque, but it's just a little bit see-through so you can see what disc is inside. I love that effect of seeing the spinning disc, and the one they have in the screenshots of this concept is Cyberpunk 2077. That's a little meme joke there because you're gonna need a PS6 for that game to ever run right. Ha ha ha. But no, seriously, the next gen patch is supposed to come out soon, and it's apparently going to include a ton of content. So I'm really excited for that. But you know, it was funny that they put a Cyberpunk in the PS6 because, you know, it's hard to run right now even if you have a PS5. Something that I think is a little bit ambitious, maybe a little wishful thinking on this PS6 concept is the fact that it only has one USB-C port and two USB-A ports. I guarantee you that by the time, hell, even if we get to the PS5 Pro, we are losing USB-A ports sooner rather than later, right? Like, that is a technology that is finally dying out. USB 3 is not fast enough. USB-C is where it's at. Let's get this Thunderbolt 4 going on this PS6. I mean, by that point, we might have Thunderbolt 5. We won't even need to have games on discs. We'll just have them on little SSD cartridges that you plug right into a USB-C port or something like that. I mean, as sad as it is to say, the fact that this has a disk drive at all is kind of like wishful thinking. Hopefully by the time we have the PS6, we still have disk drives because, I don't know, there's still something cool about going to the store or going on Amazon. Like, I have Far Cry 6 on PC, right? But I've really wanted to see how it works on PS5. I just saw it was on sale for 20 bucks. I bought it, showed up the next day here from Amazon, and put the disc in, downloaded 50 million patches, and then my save transferred perfectly from PC because out of all the developers out there, Ubisoft is the one that's figured out how to do save transferring right. And that's just kind of a bummer because all their games are exactly the same at this point, and that's sad. And then finally, from a build quality standpoint, this is obviously looking a lot more expensive than what we're probably going to see. There's a little too much aluminum, like brushed aluminum on this concept console. Obviously, the disc tray is plastic, but it looks like everything else is brushed aluminum. And yeah, if you don't want to pay like $600, $700, $800 for your console, you should start getting used to plastic design because that's exactly why we have so much plastic on the PS5. It's way cheaper. It brings the cost to develop down, which in turn brings the cost when we go buy it down as well. So I'm all for that. Like, I love aluminum as much as the next guy. I use a Razer Blade gaming laptop because I love the black ionized aluminum so much. But with the consoles, where the goal is to be cheaper than a PC by about half the price, I can live with plastic. I'm a compromiser, you know? And when you look closer, there's a really cool touch that kind of mimics the inside texture of the faceplates. You know, if you look really close on the inside of the faceplates on the PS5 right now, there's all the PlayStation buttons, the square, circle, cross, triangle. They're like very small and you can kind of feel the texture. The way they brought that into this like brushed aluminum, amazing looking PS6 is in the curves where there's those black stacked lines. You can see the little button shapes punched into the metal there. And I think that's really cool. Obviously those are fan vents, but it's cool to have that, you know, the buttons from the PlayStation controller because those are iconic and I like them a lot. You know, I want that to stay. I think it's cool that Sony does that. On the PS4 Pro, you had it on the bottom, the little feet of the console, they were the shapes of the buttons. I always thought that was dope. But at the end of the day, my favorite part about this concept is the fact that it goes back to the DualShock 4 design. Like, look, I love the DualSense as much as the next guy, but it doesn't fit in my hands as well as the DualShock 4 did. I really loved the design of that controller. I loved using it on PC. I loved using it on PS4 and PS4 Pro. I think they knocked it out of the park with that. And if they can figure out how to get the like adaptive triggers, the haptic feedback, the less bright light bar into the DualShock 4 design, that's like money right there. I think people would spend money on that. I think they would go buy it because you know what? That one works with the official back pedal attachment that Sony made, which is actually very good. So yeah, maybe we need to get a retro edition of the DualSense that's like the DualShock 4. I can't believe I just called it retro. But yeah, this is just a super cool concept for the PS6. Thankfully, I think this one's pretty far out. We got a PS5 Pro to worry about first and hopefully a PS5 Slim. It's gonna be a while till we see the PS6. I hope. I just bought a PS5. I don't got the funds here to buy a PS6 just yet. Anyway, guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below, and remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.